Hello and welcome to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Today I want to talk about a few things, but mainly about time. And the question is, if we have never had really so much free time at any time in history, so there again, why is it then that we all seem to be so, in inverted commas, busy? Busy doing what? Okay, now if you think about the times before mechanism when people had to manually wash their clothes, manually prepare their food, go out and get stuff from the farm and scrub and clean and do all these things manually, and every hour of the day really was taken up with washing, sewing and darning and bringing in stuff, and even going down to the well, if you think about it, even as back as 30 or 40 years ago, my parents had to do so much more manually that they didn't really have much free time other than to sit down maybe to watch Coronation Street and the news, and that was it. The rest of their day was just taken up. And yet today, it seems that people are so busy, aren't they? Everyone's busy. I haven't got any time. I'm doing this. I'm busy. I haven't got time to this. We run a Rotary Club, and it's a struggle to get people to go and spend an hour a week to have lunch and meet at the Rotary Club, because they're all busy, yeah. Okay, people might say they're working longer hours, but I don't think so. When I was talking in the last episode about working hours have gone down every year for the last, since the 1850s, when people worked 60 hours a week in the 1800s, and now the average working week is about 32 hours. So yeah, some people do work very hard and long hours, but I don't think that's the only reason. Now, I mean, I'll come into the hours of the week, but I mean, how many hours a week are there in every week? Okay, how many hours are there in a week? Okay, if you're trying to work it out in your head, it's 168 hours a week. And how many of those hours are you actually working? How many hours do you spend working? Well, let's say 40 hours a week that you're actually working, although a lot of people work 35 hours a week. One of the parties in the election wants to bring a 4-day week in, so that would be interesting. And so how many hours do you spend sleeping? Well, I'm going on, say, 8 hours a day. Some people sleep between 7 and 8 hours a day, so it's between 50 and 56 hours a week. Yeah, that's fair enough. And then let's say you can build in 5 days a week, 2 hours travelling time to and from work. So that would mean that you have actually 62 hours free per week. So I'm going for the 168 less 40 less 56 less the 10 hours a week. You should have 62, about 60 hours a week, we'll call it 60 hours a week free. And then what do you do with that time? I mean, then ask yourself, well, how many hours a day or how many hours a week do I spend in front of the box watching television? How many hours do I spend browsing on social media? Now, I bring this up because one of the parties in the campaign, we've got an election coming up on the 12th of December, and both parties are promising to make our lives better. They're also, we're going to spend this and do that. But one of the party speeches came out, and it was a lady who pointed out that people need to study to learn new skills. Yeah, we all knew that. We all have to study to learn new skills. And she said that companies should be forced to give paid leave to people who want to study. She said at the moment, companies can allow you to study if you're studying in, for company related stuff. Like you work in a job and they want you to go on a course to learn how to do your job better. They will pay you for that time, which is normal, isn't it? But she said, no, companies should pay you even if you want to go and study something that will take you into another field altogether. So she wants the company to be forced by law to pay you to go and study so that then you can go and leave the job. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. If you're an employer, you don't want to be paying people so they can go and study and then leave you. I mean, that's like a kick in the teeth twice over. No, nothing wrong with people bettering themselves, and I think people should improve themselves. Why not? Most people don't study after they leave school, but the people who do, the people I see getting on, are people that do their CPD, their continuous professional development, and they go back to school and do degrees. I went back to school many times in my life because I left school early and I went back to school to learn things and learn new skills and learn job related stuff and even do a degree. So but I did that in my own time. I did that by rowing my own boat. I didn't expect the employer to subsidise me for that. So you have to sometimes make sacrifices to get where you want to go. And that's what I did. I sacrificed time that I could have spent watching TV or having fun or drinking or whatever. And that has helped me to get on. And that's where you've got to ask yourself then the question, where does your time go? How do you, I can see you probably say, well, I haven't got time to study. I haven't got time to do evening classes or go to university to do a degree in the evening. I haven't got time for that. And believe me, you have got the time. And in this country, in the UK, there are many courses which are free to people. There are many subsidised university courses. And you can do these courses in the evening. You can do them at the weekend. You can do them remotely online if you don't want to leave your house. So there isn't really an excuse. So you've got to ask yourself critical questions like, how many hours are there in the week? How many hours do I spend at work? How many hours have I really got free? How many hours do I waste on Facebook, mucking around, just, browsing around and wasting a lot of time? Because Facebook, just like the TV companies, want to suck you into their world, because if you're in their world, you're clicking on ads and spending money and making them money. You're making Mark Zuckerberg money. So if you want to make money for yourself, you've probably got to then say, ask yourself questions like, where is my life going? How much time am I wasting in my life? Other questions like, how much money do I have in the bank right now? And will I be able to afford to retire? Because believe me, millions of people in this country will not be able to afford to retire, even though we've lived through the most prosperous era in history. A lot of people will get to retirement and say, well, I haven't got any money. Unless you've been in a good final salary pension scheme, you may have worked for the government in a government job. Hi to everyone coming on Facebook live. I can see one of my old friends there probably has, if you've worked in a job like him in the government job, you should have had a proper pension scheme. But a lot of people haven't got that now because those pension schemes were too expensive to run and they've kind of been phased out. But people who work in the public sector will get those sort of pensions. But the other people will not. They'll just get these small work-based pensions, which I don't think are going to amount to much personally. I know from my days in financial services, I spent 25 years in financial services, so I know a little bit about pensions. And I think people are vastly under saving and they're under preparing for their retirement. And that's why I wrote this book, Money Can Buy You Happiness. Not to say, oh, you can be happy if you have money. Yeah, it does buy you happiness. It can buy you security and peace of mind. In itself, it won't make you happy. But a lot of the stuff in there is about saving and managing your money so that you can say to yourself, well, I can afford to retire. This is my plan for retirement. Now, you need to take financial advice, but I think you get the idea of what I'm saying here. And the idea of, saying to the employer, well, I can't study unless my employer pays me to take days off to study is just nonsense. You've got to take responsibility for yourself. I'm always doing courses. I was on a course last weekend to learn. I'm into property, so I want to learn what's going on in property. Maybe there's been changes. Maybe someone's got some good ideas that I haven't thought about. And, in one of the cases, they were talking about buying property with no money down. So people say, well, how can you do that? That's impossible. You can't do that. Well, the fact is you can. I remember a few years ago in 2004, 2005, people were saying that you could buy a property and borrow all of the money. And you could you could take a mortgage and get your money out of the property the same day. And I talked to my solicitor. He said, "Oh, it's illegal. You can't do that. It's illegal." But in fact, it wasn't illegal. And by not going into the training properly and going on courses to learn how to do it, I lost out on that situation because I listened to people, not down the pub, but I listened to people who didn't really look into it and said, "Well, it's illegal." So when you hear people saying, "Well, you can't buy properties unless you've got money," don't believe that. There are many ways you can do that. So if you want to learn more about that, just drop me a line on Facebook Messenger or charles@charleskelly.net, and I'll send you, give you information on how you can go on a free taster course to learn more about property, so that you're not listening to people down the pub who say, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, and property is only for people with money, and you have to be rich to make money, you have to have money to make money. Well, that's not the case. Now, we're not talking about becoming billionaires here. We're just talking about having to be comfortable, so that you have enough money to retire on, so that you have enough money when your boiler breaks down, or if your boss says to you, well, we're making you redundant, that you have enough money to cover yourself for maybe 3 to 6 months, where you're not like these people on TV say, well, I can't pay my mortgage this month because the factory's just closed down and I can't pay my rent. You don't want to be in that position. You must have something put aside. So that's what we're talking about. So when we're saying money can buy you happiness, we're not talking about yachts and Rolls Royces. We're just talking about the basic things. Because if you talk to people that I've met in the developing world, and you say, oh, you see they're starving and they're sitting there and they haven't even got shoes, and you say to them, well, money can't buy you, money doesn't buy you happiness, only things, like meditation, that can make you happy, but money, no, you can't be happy with money. Money doesn't buy you happiness, so you don't need money. Well, that's all nonsense, isn't it? They need money. Everybody needs money, and people who say money doesn't buy you happiness are usually people who've got bundles of it. Right? They're people who are loaded, and they say, oh, money doesn't buy you happiness. You stay down there and I'll stay up here. And you just believe that money doesn't buy you happiness. Your happiness will come in the next life. Well, let's forget all about that. You've got this life here, and that's what I want to sort out. Now, other than that, there has been some good news in the news today, although I haven't heard much about it on the news. But inflation is down to 1.8% per annum, which is a very low rate of inflation, but wage growth is up to 3.6%. So wages are growing at around 3.5%, and inflation is down to 2%, which means that you should be keeping ahead with the prices and your wage rise if you are one of those people who are getting rise. These are average figures. And yesterday we talked about the UK job market. There's more people in employment, I think, than ever before. And, within the unemployment rate down below 4%, that makes us the envy of Europe. In places like Spain, it wasn't that long ago, they had 40% unemployment in men under the age of 30, 40%. And that's why there's so many people from Europe coming here, because their country's economy is just a basket case. The term pigs, the pig countries, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, PIGS, these countries are in trouble. And people who say, well, we've got to stay in the European Union. Yeah, okay, there are some good things about the European Union, but, a lot of the countries in the European Union are suffering because they've got strict regulations on employment. So I think our flexible system here and having flexible employment rules and laws is helping the economy, and that's why there's so many people employed in this country and why so many people want to come to this country. I spoke to a Greek guy yesterday. I said, what are you doing here? What made you come here from Athens? He said, this is the best place in Europe to make money. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and especially those on Facebook Live. My throat's getting dry. Facebook Live. Do catch my podcast on iTunes or my blog on moneytipsdaily.com. Thanks, and have a great evening. Bye for now.